supermarket if you want to do this at home. It's readily available.
Why do they spell it with the F when our paper said PH?
There's a million ways of spelling it. Sometimes it's one L, sometimes
American.
it's two, sometimes it's a P, sometimes it's an F. Just like we do with all kinds of words from other languages, just change them around a little bit. I think authentically it's with a PH because it's not actually an English word, but either way, it's the same stuff. It's the same stuff. So we've got this stuff rolled up in here. We're going to unroll it, but we're going to keep it covered while we're not using it. So I'm just going to take all these sheets and open them up. And sometimes you're going to find when you buy this, these look pretty nice, but a lot of them are torn or broken. And in the end, it doesn't really matter that much, and you'll see why. So what we're going to do is start by doing a strudel, and we're going to layer several of these sheets of dough together with melted butter in between the layers. We're going to start by just taking one sheet and laying it out. And if it breaks, no problem, just overlap it a little bit. Because we're going to have so many, yes, it's really, really, truly paper thin.
Are you going to use the whole box?
No, I'm going to layer about 5 sheets together.
Okay. Is it easier?
Not for one product. It would just be too much dough, you know what I mean? Because remember, what I'm going to do is put an apple layer right here and then roll it up. So it's going to be multiplying itself on top of that 5 layers as I do it. So it'll be like 3 times 5 layers by the time I'm done. So anyway, what I'm going to do is first brush it with some melted butter.
Oh my gosh, my son used my basting brush for his art project.
Oh. I think it would have
No, that brush isn't bad.
All right. So we're just going to go ahead and just brush it with a nice layer. And then we're going to take some of our leftover crumbs that we had. Remember I had you make 2 cups of them. 1 cup went into your filling. And the other one, we're just going to sprinkle lightly over our sheets as we stack them. Okay? We're going to take another one. And just keep doing the same thing. Oop. Pat it down a little bit so they stick. And as you start getting them layered together and it gets thicker, it gets a little bit easier to handle them without them getting too fragile and start breaking, so you can be a little less gentle as you go.
You can't put too much butter?
You can. If you put too much butter, it's going to end up just running out when you bake it. You know what I mean? So you want to give it a complete coverage like this, but you don't want actually pools of butter on there, or it'll just come pouring out. So you want just enough to create, essentially, when you think about it, an equal thickness as to the dough itself. Okay, so that's equal thicknesses of dough and fat. What's that? We're going for that look right there, more or less. That's a baklava, so it's layered in a pan. This is going to be rolled up, so it's going to be kind of a round look. But yes, we go for that. See how I'm saying? It's just completely flaky and crispy. There's no chewy part. All right. All right. Now we're going to do about 5 of these, and again, that amount is variable. But 5 works out about nice for this.
It looks pretty good with a pecan pie.
Would be a great taco crust, like taco stuff,
It would be very nice if you guys can concentrate on what's going on right here. The reason I'm taking the time to do it.
So these always start like this with a few layers first before you...
Yes, no matter what you do with it, it's just a matter of stacking a bunch of layers together. And depending on what we're going to do, for instance, the next thing we're going to do, I'm only going to stack 3 together, but I'm going to put 2 stacks of 3 together, so I end up with a stack of 6. And that will give me about as much thickness as you need. Usually somewhere between 5, well, even between 3 and 10 sheets per layer, depending on what you're going to do.
So you couldn't put apple on just a single layer and roll it, it would work out?
What do you mean by that?
Like, we just wouldn't bake properly. We like use just one of these and put the apple down and roll it up, and it wouldn't come out.
No, it would just be too thin to work with and wouldn't have enough layers and would probably just fall apart. Remember, this dough is pretty thin. You need some sort of substantial structure to it, so you need several of them together to give you an actual layer of dough, because one sheet would be just so thin, probably by the time you picked it up, it would probably just crackle and fall apart and be nothing left. Yeah.
Probably wouldn't, the steam wouldn't
But what if you
rise
want
it
like a
either.
thin layer?
Well, the steam doesn't rise
Yeah.
on this particular one. The steam is on the other one. So what we're going to do here is we're going to layer the last one, another layer of butter.
So could you make it thinner though, like use 3 instead of 5?
Yeah,
Or you
absolutely.
wanted it to be
Yeah.
like
Yeah, or more
layer
if you
of
wanted
pastry.
more. Yeah, so again, like I say, that's all variable, how many layers you use. But we're just going with 5 here because from experience I know it works out pretty good for this product.
Okay.
Like if you're making baklava, you're familiar with baklava? It's a layer of flakiness, then a layer of nuts, and so like the bottom layer would be like 10 of them because you want a good bottom layer. Then in the middle layer would probably only be maybe 3 layers together.
okay.
Then the next layer 3, and then the top would be say 8 or 10 again. So you have nice thick ones on the bottom and kind of thinner ones in the center. So it's variable depending on how thick of a layer of crust you want. Alright? Alright, and once again, now putting these crumbs in between the layers like this also helps kind of keep the layers separated a little bit and give it more flakiness. Although it can be done without the crumbs, it gives it a nice finish with the crumbs on it. So now that I'm done with these for just a couple of minutes, I'm going to roll them back up because I don't want them to dry out on me. I'm going to take my filling mixture, as we talked about earlier, and now I'm going to blend it together. And I'm going to layer this just in a log in one spot on there.
Apple's the traditional fruit.
Very much for apple strudel. A strudel is very often apple, but they do them with you know, cherries, peaches. Sometimes they do them with cheese and a fruit filling as well. And, you know, over the years, all kinds of variables have come up on it. But apple strudel is a classic Austrian type or German type dish. Yes, just because apples are big over there. Lots of apple things that they do over there. But any kind of strudel can be done. Like I say, even cheese and fruit has become big over the years in areas where they actually do apple strudel. So again, I'm going to make sure I get
Good amount.
all of this filling. I'm saving some of this because I'm going to use this for my cups. So I only did 3 apples. You guys had 5, so you'll have more left over for your cups. We're just going to do a roll of apples like that, and then I'm just going to take this and just fold it over to make myself a little log. Okay, tuck everything back in. And again, at this point, like I say, if you have tears, it's not going to matter by the time it rolls up several times. We're going to tuck this nice and tight. Yeah.
A small piece off of it at the back.
What is that?
When you're rolling right here.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was saying. If it's torn, it's not going to matter by the time we roll it up several times, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the paper here to do this, and I'm just going to take the paper, and I'm going to pull tight this way. Don't push against the roll because your knuckles will leave marks in it. You want it to be nice and level. So I'm just going to pull it tight this way, and just pull it toward me. And use the paper to go ahead and roll it up into a nice roll, okay? When I get to the end, I will just go ahead and tuck back in whatever pieces fell out. Since this filling is kind of dry that way, it tends to have a tendency to fall out a little bit. I'm just going to close it up as best I can and just leave it into a log like that. I'm going to brush the top again with my melted butter.
Do you want it like real tight?
Yes, you want it fairly tight, like it is here. As you can see now, when you look from the side, you've got quite a number of layers now built up around it by rolling it and rolling it around. Okay? So again, just one more wash of butter over the top. And then we're going to go ahead and put it on a sheet pan. And again, you could do it right on the paper that it's on and just cut it and lift it and put it on the sheet pan. Or just lift it up. If you want to lift it, you want to be careful and lift it from underneath and get your hands really well under it. But it's easiest to just lift it on a sling like this on your pan and just set it over. And then we'll pop these into the 350-degree oven and we'll bake them off. They'll probably take about 40-45 minutes or so. Because you want to make sure you need those apples to cook inside. Right. Exactly. So like just like an apple pie takes about that long to get the apples to cook. Because remember, we got completely raw apples here, and we want that crisp to be crispy all the way through.